Hello all, I hope you're doing well. In this video, I would like to come back to the subject of vagus nerve, the cranial nerve 10, and start talking to you about polyvagal theory, of which vagus nerve is the main focus. And polyvagal theory was developed by Dr. Stephen Porges, and it came out in early 90s. However, he was doing his research in the 70s, where he studied the heart rate variabilities in neonates and was able to actually focus on autonomic nervous system functioning and how it plays a role in our physiological states such as fight, flight, freeze, and that later on led him to actually figure out how different fibers of the vagus have a lot to do with sociality, with our behavior, and our mental states that correspond to different physiological states. There is a lot of information already out there on the polyvagal theory, and many practitioners in healing arts, as well as elite professions, yoga teachers, and laypersons who find this to be very healing to learn and apply the principles and exercises that the theory talks about to better their health, their nervous system health, and overall health. So I do have to, I believe, at least tell you briefly what the polyvagal theory is for those of you who don't know what it is and why it's important. I will be making series of videos where I would focus on different aspects of the theory, as well as providing you with some information that would give you more clarity, perhaps, on why the polyvagal theory is not used by everyone, and actually some people dispute it, and there is a lot of controversy. I personally found what the theory offers incredibly useful, and in my own healing journey I was able to utilize Safe and Sound protocol, which was an intervention created by Dr. Porges, as well as Unite, the integrated listening system company that is an amazing tool, I believe, to rebalance and rewire the brain for safety, for being in a state of calm and alive. So without further ado, I will start talking about what is polyvagal theory. And polyvagal theory provides a framework that explains the autonomic nervous system role in us experiencing different physiological states as we perceive stimuli from environment, and our nervous system interprets them whether they would fit a category of safety or danger and or in between. So the vagus nerve, cranial nerve 10, the wanderer that innervates most of our internal visceral organs, comprises 80% of the autonomic nervous system, as you can probably review by checking out my other videos and other information online if you like. And this nerve is actually two-pronged. That's why it's called polyvagal. The ventral fibers supply the front of the body, and the dorsal fibers or the back fibers go into sympathetic and become sympathetic chain ganglion, as well as becoming responsible for a total shutdown response or freeze, which can sometimes lead to collapse. So there is a hierarchy of responses, and the theory proposes hierarchical structure of responses to perceived threats, moving from most sophisticated, such as being socially engaged, feeling safe being in the company of another, to the most primitive, which is a shutdown. Then there is a social engagement, ventral vagal. In safe environments, ventral vagus fibers activate the engagement system, and there are actually 5 cranial nerves that play a role in the system, and I believe I provided you with a short video of which nerves comprise the system. This one allows for exchange of safety cues and regulating sympathetic nervous system. The next aspect of the hierarchy is mobilization, and that is done by the sympathetic fibers. When threatened, the sympathetic nervous system, which is part of the autonomic nervous system, just like parasympathetic, activates the fight-flight response that prepares the body for action. The last aspect of the hierarchy is immobilization, dorsal vagal, and this one, in case of, it describes what happens in case of threat being perceived as overwhelming by the nervous system, and the dorsal vagus system activates, leading to freeze and or collapse and or shutdown. So one of the important aspects of these states is that they are also could be perceived as survival states. It sheds light on how these responses impact our physical sensations, emotions, and behaviors. And this understanding allows to identify and address, for example, underlying causes of stress and trauma and or illness. What I want to talk about next is neuroception, and this term was coined by Dr. Stephen Porges. And polyvagal theory describes this as a process that is largely unconscious, where nervous system is detecting and responding to cues of safety and or danger and threat, but it's not conscious to us unless we start working with the body and engage in different somatic practices. That's how we can make something unconscious conscious. And this is also very important to understand because a lot of times you see in our society where behavior is judged as something that is done intentionally, but a lot of times our responses are unconscious and therefore not intentional, and it has a lot of implications in many different areas of life to understand this. So co-regulation is another thing that I want to address today as part of talking about polyvagal theory. And co-regulation emphasizes importance of social interaction in regulating nervous system. A lot of times therapies that solely focus on helping the client just cope by themselves with different kinds of elements, issues in their life. However, we cannot completely heal if we don't have another to regulate with. By another, I mean another mammal that would be perceived safe for us to be around. And of course, this perception of safety varies depending on what one has been through, what one's nervous system has been through out their life. So I now want to move to talking about why it is possibly important to know polyvagal theory, and some of this I've already mentioned. Understanding polyvagal theory has implications for treating certain conditions, including trauma, anxiety, depression, autism, ADHD, where the underlying causes are most often have to do with dysregulation of the nervous system, specifically autonomic or automatic nervous system. The theory also suggests that therapeutic intervention should focus on helping individuals regulate their nervous system to help them achieve better health, and that has to do with many different aspects, such as physiological, emotional, social, because the bottom line is that when one resides in a rest and digest or homeostatically stable state of social engagement, most often they experience this felt sense of safety inside the body. And that is just, I would call, a symptom, but when our nervous system functions well, everything else in the body functions well most of the time. And the last thing I want to mention is that when we address underlying physiological responses, individuals can learn to better cope with stress and trauma and improve their overall well-being. And to me, this really is worth it to at least consider the plausibility of the theory. And I highly encourage that people incorporate it into their practices for helping individuals heal from many different elements. So I will probably put some of this information for you in the description section down below so that you can read about it. I will be continue talking about polyvagal theory, and I will also share with you some resources that probably might shed some light on why there is controversy surrounding polyvagal theory. I also would like to offer you resources that have to do with somatic practices based on polyvagal theory, and will cite some works, some references in the description section down below as well, such as Polyvagal Theory Pocket Guide written by Dr. Stephen Porges, and the book that you might have already seen me showing you, Accessing the Healing Power of the Vagus Nerve, Self-Help Exercises for Anxiety, Depression, Trauma, and Autism by Stanley Rosenberg, as well as probably creating series of videos based on the information in the polyvagal card deck written by Dana, the licensed social worker, who was among the first to apply polyvagal theory in clinical practice. So this is what I have to share with you today. Hope you find it helpful, and if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.